Your dying plants are begging for this. 5 kitchen scraps that feed your garden better than store-bought fertilizer. The garden is not done. You just do not know what it is missing. There is a specific kind of gut punch that hits when you walk out to the garden in the morning and find a plant that was thriving 3 days ago now folding in on itself. Yellowed leaves, limp stems, flowers that closed and never reopened. Most gardeners look at that scene and make the same decision. Grab the shovel, pull the plant, blame the season. But here is what soil scientists have found after studying the exact moment a plant begins to collapse. In almost every case, the plant is not dying from disease. It is starving, running out of 1 or 2 specific nutrients that the soil can no longer provide on its own. And those nutrients, every single one of them, can be delivered in as little as 48 hours using things already sitting inside your kitchen right now. 5 of them, to be exact. 5 zero-cost liquid fertilizers that university soil labs have measured, that generations of farmers used long before synthetic products existed, and that the fertilizer industry has had little interest in promoting for one very straightforward reason. There is no profit in an onion skin. Today on Grow Bountiful, we're going deep into all 5, what each one does, exactly how to make it, precise measurements for your garden, and the specific mistakes that cause each method to fail when people go in without the full picture. If this is the kind of honest, research-backed gardening content you want every week, go ahead and smash that subscribe button right now. It means everything to this channel. Now let us get into the garden. What a failing plant is actually trying to tell you. Before the first method, one idea is worth locking in because it changes the way you read every struggling plant for the rest of your gardening life. In 1840, a German chemist named Justus von Liebig introduced what he called the law of the minimum. The idea is simple and completely unforgiving. Plant growth is not controlled by what a plant has plenty of. It is controlled entirely by what the plant has the least of. Von Liebig described it using the image of a wooden barrel built with staves of different heights. Water inside the barrel only rises as high as the shortest stave. It does not matter how tall the others stand. One short stave caps the entire barrel. Every tomato, pepper, and zucchini in your garden works exactly the same way. A plant rich in potassium and phosphorus but short on nitrogen will stop growing at the nitrogen line, full stop. The question to ask in front of every struggling plant is never what does this garden have enough of. The question is always what is the one thing it is missing. Each method we cover today targets a specific gap. Know the symptom, match the remedy, and the results will follow fast. Onion peel tea. Here is a question worth pausing on before another onion skin hits the trash. Which part of the onion carries more potassium, the white bulb that goes into the pan, or the dry, crackling skin that gets peeled off without a second thought? The answer stops most people cold. It is the skin. Those papery outer layers that kitchens across the world have treated as worthless carry one of the most concentrated doses of potassium, calcium, magnesium, and iron found anywhere in the produce section. They also carry a compound called quercetin, a natural antioxidant that inside plant tissue acts as a frontline immune defender. Quercetin slows fungal spread, buffers the plant against heat stress, and steadies cellular chemistry when temperatures swing hard in either direction. It is essentially a plant immune booster, hiding inside the part of the onion everybody throws away. Most gardeners who hear about onion skins make a completely understandable mistake. They bury the dry skins directly into the soil, expect them to decompose, and wait for results. That method eventually works in 3 to 4 weeks, once the fibers have broken down enough to release anything meaningful. But a plant wilting today does not have 3 weeks. The rescue needs to happen now, and the solution is simpler than most people expect. Water. Water extracts minerals from plant tissue the same way it draws flavor and color from a tea bag. Submerge onion skins in water and the nutrients migrate out of the fiber and into the liquid, already dissolved, already in a form the roots can absorb the moment the solution reaches the soil. To make it, take 2 to 3 large handfuls of dry onion skins, collecting them over a week of cooking works perfectly, and place them in a 1-gallon jar or bucket. Cover completely with cool tap water. Drape a cloth over the top and leave at room temperature for 24 to 48 hours. Within the first day, the water begins shifting toward amber. By the second day, it has deepened to the color of strong brewed tea. That color is the potassium, magnesium, calcium and quercetin compounds leaving the skin fibers and dissolving into the water. No heat required, no blending, nothing beyond a jar, some skins, and patience overnight. Use this liquid undiluted, poured directly at the base of the plant. Apply roughly ½ liter per medium plant or 2 liters per square meter of garden bed. Do this every 10 to 14 days through the active growing season. Within 3 to 5 days of the first application, watch for stems beginning to firm back up, new leaf growth coming in a deeper, richer green, and flower production picking up on plants that had stalled completely. The quercetin, meanwhile, is quietly switching the plant's own immune system back on. Stem rot slows, seedling wilt fades, and plants that looked finished at the start of the week are still producing at the end of the season. No fertilizer on any store shelf delivers that combination in a single pour. Fermented rice water. The cloudy water left in the pot after rinsing uncooked rice is one of the most consistently underestimated liquids in any kitchen. It looks like dirty water. Most people pour it straight down the drain without a thought, but that milky rinse carries B vitamins, trace amounts of iron and zinc, and, most critically, wild microbes that, under the right conditions, will transform it into one of the most powerful soil treatments a home gardener can make. The key word is fermented. Fresh rice water poured directly onto soil right after rinsing offers mild benefits at best, useful but not dramatic. Fermented rice water left in a covered jar at room temperature for 3 to 5 days until it develops a faint, pleasantly sour smell, similar to the first stages of sourdough starter, is a completely different tool. That smell is the signature of a microbial bloom. Lactic acid bacteria and wild yeasts have moved in and colonized the liquid, and these are precisely the microorganisms that Japanese agricultural scientist Dr. Teruo Higa identified as effective microorganisms in his landmark research during the 1980s. His work showed that specific communities of beneficial microbes introduced to depleted soil could bring it back to genuine biological health within weeks. Formulas based on his research are now used on farms across more than 150 countries, and the microbes at the heart of those formulas appear naturally in fermented rice water for free, with no shipping cost. Here is what actually happens when fermented rice water reaches the garden. Plants do not feed directly from raw nutrients floating in the soil. They feed through a relationship, a living exchange conducted by the microscopic organisms clustered around their roots. Beneficial bacteria break down organic matter and convert nutrients into forms roots can absorb. Yeasts suppress the pathogens that cause root rot and damping off. When that underground community collapses through overuse of synthetic chemicals, soil compaction, or prolonged drought, the plant begins to starve even when the soil technically still holds nutrients. The nutrients are present. The workers who deliver them are gone. Fermented rice water restores those workers, and research on similar preparations shows that beneficial microbial populations around treated roots can triple within a single week of application. To make it, rinse 1 cup of uncooked rice in 2 cups of cool water, swirling well to release the starches. Pour only the cloudy rinse water into a clean glass jar, not the rice itself. Cover with a breathable cloth secured by a rubber band, which lets fermentation gases escape while keeping insects out. Leave at room temperature for 3 to 5 days. The liquid will shift from bright cloudy white to a soft off-white or pale yellow, and the mild sour scent will develop as fermentation progresses. That scent is the confirmation it is ready. If the smell has gone sharp, rancid, or genuinely unpleasant rather than gently tangy, discard it and start again. Always dilute before applying. 1 part fermented rice water to 10 parts plain water. Undiluted, the acidity is strong enough to irritate root hairs, especially in seedlings. At the correct dilution, it is gentle enough to apply every 7 to 10 days for the entire season. Use approximately 1 liter of diluted solution per square meter of bed, poured evenly across the root zone. Within a week of consistent use, expect visible improvement in leaf color, stronger root development in transplants, and an overall lift in plant energy that is hard to miss once you have seen it. Vegetable scrap digestate. Open the refrigerator. The overripe tomato sitting at the back of the crisper, the head of lettuce that wilted before anyone got around to it, the bruised cucumber pushed to the corner, the soft pepper nobody wanted to cut. Every single one of those scraps is nitrogen in disguise, and nitrogen is the nutrient that drives green growth more than any other. Leaves, stems, new shoots. Nitrogen builds all of it. And in the vast majority of backyard vegetable gardens, nitrogen is the single most commonly depleted nutrient in the soil. The symptoms are hard to miss once you know what you are looking at. Older leaves at the bottom of the plant go yellow first, while younger leaves at the top remain green. Overall growth slows to almost nothing. The plant looks exhausted regardless of how often it is watered. That is a nitrogen-starved plant, and the fix is almost certainly already waiting in the kitchen. Green kitchen scraps, especially soft, overripe, high-moisture vegetable material, carry what soil scientists call a low carbon-to-nitrogen ratio. In practical language, they are loaded with nitrogen relative to their fiber content, and that nitrogen can be extracted into water far faster than it would ever release through conventional composting. The process has a name: nitrogen mineralization. In water, with the right microbial activity, it happens in days rather than months. To make it, fill a 5-gallon bucket roughly halfway with soft vegetable scraps, overripe tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, leafy greens, fruit peels, and soft roots all work well. Avoid anything cooked in oil, any meat or dairy or citrus in large quantities. Add enough water to fully submerge the scraps, then weigh them down with a plate to keep everything below the surface. Cover the bucket loosely and leave it in a warm location for 10 to 14 days. The liquid will darken significantly and develop a strong, earthy, fermented smell. That smell is the confirmation that bacteria have broken the plant cells apart and released the nitrogen into the surrounding water. The finished liquid is dark, cloudy, and unmistakably pungent, and it is exactly as ready as it smells. Dilute at a ratio of 1 part scrap liquid to 30 parts water before it touches the garden. Apply 1 to 2 liters of diluted solution per square meter of bed, poured at the root zone only. Never spray this on leaves. Even at this dilution, it is strong enough to scorch foliage on contact. Never pour it undiluted. The concentrated compounds can burn root hairs so severely the plant cannot recover. Applied correctly at the soil level, results become visible within 4 to 6 days. Pale, tired leaves deepen to full, healthy green. New shoots push out from leaf joints that had been completely dormant. A plant that looked finished on Monday can be setting new flowers by the following Saturday. The truth worth sitting with is this: the average kitchen produces more nitrogen in vegetable scraps each week than a small vegetable garden actually needs in a full month. The nutrients were never scarce. They were simply going to the wrong place. The full-spectrum kitchen brew. Now, every method we've covered so far really targets a specific deficiency. Onion peel tea handles potassium and plant immunity. Fermented rice water, well, that rebuilds the underground microbial ecosystem. And vegetable scrap digestate, that one just floods the soil with fast-acting nitrogen. But, a plant in serious decline is rarely missing just one nutrient. It's usually missing 5 or 6 simultaneously in different amounts all at the same time. For that situation, a single ingredient remedy just isn't enough. What the garden really needs is a complete recipe, and this one is built entirely from things most households throw away before the morning is over. Each ingredient earns its place by doing something specific that the others simply can't. Banana peels deliver potassium, the mineral that drives flowering, fruit development, and the plant's ability to regulate water movement through its cells. A tomato plant short on potassium produces small, watery fruit with skin that splits as it ripens. So use 3 to 4 banana peels, cut into small pieces per batch. Finely crushed eggshells provide calcium carbonate, the raw building block of plant cell walls. Calcium deficiency is the direct cause of blossom end rot, that black, sunken patch at the bottom of an otherwise beautiful tomato, which is, honestly, one of the most frustrating sights in the vegetable garden. Crush 6 to 8 eggshells as finely as possible before adding them. The finer the pieces, the faster the calcium transfers into the water. Use coffee grounds direct from the filter basket after brewing, not fresh unbrewed grounds, contribute slow-release nitrogen and improve soil texture. Now here's where a persistent and widely repeated myth deserves a direct correction. Used coffee grounds are not significantly acidic. Fresh unbrewed grounds are. But the brewing process, well, it neutralizes most of that acidity. University soil lab measurements actually place used grounds at a pH of 6.5 to 6.8, almost exactly where most vegetable gardens want to be. So, they will not acidify your beds. What they will do is feed earthworms, improve drainage, and release nitrogen gradually across several weeks. 1 to 2 tablespoons per batch is just about right. Epsom salt, chemically magnesium sulfate, addresses intervenal chlorosis, one of the most visually striking and most commonly misread deficiencies in any garden. When leaves yellow between their veins while the veins themselves stay green, the plant is almost always running short on magnesium. Magnesium sits at the chemical center of every chlorophyll molecule in every green plant on Earth. No magnesium means no chlorophyll production, which means photosynthesis slows and the whole plant weakens from within. 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt per gallon of brew delivers a direct, fast-acting correction. One important caveat: yellowing leaves have multiple possible causes. Nitrogen deficiency yellows older leaves first. Iron deficiency yellows the youngest growth. Overwatering can yellow the whole plant. Epsom salt solves magnesium deficiency specifically, so do diagnose before treating. Blackstrap molasses, not regular table molasses, specifically the dark, slightly bitter blackstrap variety produced during the final stage of sugarcane processing, plays the most underappreciated role in this entire formula. Blackstrap carries iron and trace minerals, but its real function here is microbial. 1 tablespoon of blackstrap stirred into the brew acts as a concentrated feast for beneficial bacteria. Their populations multiply within hours. Those active microbes then break down the banana peels, eggshells, and coffee grounds dramatically faster than those ingredients would decompose on their own. A brew without molasses takes 3 weeks to become fully useful. A brew with molasses can be ready in 3 days. That single tablespoon is the line between a slow-release fertilizer and an emergency rescue. To make it, combine all ingredients: 3 to 4 cup banana peels, 6 to 8 finely crushed eggshells, 1 to 2 tablespoons of used coffee grounds, 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt, and 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses into a 1-gallon bucket of warm water. Stir thoroughly. Cover loosely and leave at room temperature for 3 to 5 days, stirring once daily to keep the microbial activity moving. The finished liquid will be dark, slightly cloudy, and carry an earthy, fermented scent that tells you it's ready. Dilute at 1 part brew to 5 parts water and apply 1 to 2 liters of the diluted solution per square meter of garden bed, poured directly at the root zone. Use every 10 to 14 days through the active growing season. Within 1 week of the first application, expect improved leaf color, firmer stems, and a clear uptick in flower and fruit production on plants that had been completely stalled. Now, let's talk about something that's, well, a bit old-fashioned but incredibly effective. The wisdom of manure tea. For generations, gardeners and farmers have relied on this time-tested solution to nourish their soil and plants. It's a practice rooted in tradition, offering a full spectrum of nutrients in a form that's gentle, natural, and, honestly, hard to beat. Aged manure tea. Before the year 1913, synthetic fertilizer just didn't exist anywhere on Earth. Every farm, whether it was out on the flatlands of the American Midwest, tucked behind stone walls in rural Ireland, or climbing the terraced hillsides of Asia, ran on just two inputs: animal manure and compost. That all changed when Fritz Haber and Karl Bosch figured out how to pull nitrogen from the air and turn it into ammonia. The Haber-Bosch process, as it's known, is actually credited with supporting the food supply for about half of all people alive today. But here's the thing, it's also the invention that, over the next century, quietly taught agriculture to feed the plant while starving the soil. Synthetic nitrogen gives you quick, visible results, but it skips over the underground microbial ecosystem entirely. Decades of using only synthetics have degraded the biological complexity of soil in ways we can now, believe it or not, measure from space. But for the home gardener, especially when you're dealing with beds that are a bit worn out or a plant that's just not thriving, the old method still works. And when you compare what each delivers to a truly depleted garden bed, aged manure tea still outperforms just about anything you can buy in a modern bag. Old farmers up in the Appalachian Hills and out in the Pennsylvania countryside used to call it manure tea. Some folks even called it the giant tea bag. The name's almost too literal to sound interesting, but the results, I promise you, are anything but boring. You've got to use aged manure. Chickens, cows, or rabbits are all fine, as long as it's been drying out for at least 6 months, and honestly, closer to a full year is even better. This isn't really a step you can skip or rush. Fresh manure from any animal is loaded with ammonia, and that's strong enough to burn root systems the moment it touches them. Plus, it can carry weed seeds and all sorts of pathogens from whatever the animal happened to eat that week. Properly aged manure doesn't have any of those problems. Just put 2 to 3 good shovelfuls into a porous sack. Something like an old cotton pillowcase, a burlap feed bag, or even a mesh laundry bag will work. Then tie it up tight and submerge the sack in a 5-gallon bucket of water. Leave it there for 3 to 5 days. During that time, the water gently draws out soluble nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and a whole range of trace minerals, while all the solid stuff stays safely tucked away inside the sack. But each manure type brings a distinct nutritional character, and choosing the right one really matters. Aged chicken manure carries the highest levels of nitrogen and phosphorus of the three, which makes it, honestly, the most aggressive growth stimulant and the fastest option for rescuing a severely depleted plant. Just 1 cup of properly diluted chicken manure tea can push a tired tomato plant back into heavy flowering within a week. Now, aged cow manure is more balanced. It's lower in nitrogen, but exceptional for rebuilding long-term soil structure and feeding the deep humus layer, where, the most productive microbial life concentrates. Aged rabbit manure is the gentlest of all. It's actually the only common manure that can be applied in a relatively raw state without significant burn risk, because its nitrogen is already in a naturally mild organic form. Rabbit-based tea is, without a doubt, the safest choice for young seedlings and recently transplanted starts. Once the tea is brewed, dilute it down to the color of weak iced tea. That's roughly 1 part manure tea to 10 parts clean water. Apply 1 cup of diluted tea per medium-sized plant, or 1 to 2 liters per square meter of garden bed, poured directly at the root zone. Apply every 7 to 10 days through the growing season. And here's one timing detail that experienced farmers have passed down for generations, and that modern soil science now confirms. Apply manure tea during the early morning or in the final hour before sunset. In the heat of midday, a meaningful portion of the available nitrogen actually evaporates from the soil's surface before the roots have any chance to absorb it. But in the cool of morning or evening, the soil holds on to those nutrients and the plant feeds steadily through the night at its own pace. That single adjustment, changing the time of application, can, quite honestly, noticeably improve results without changing anything else about the method. The garden was never finished. 5 methods, 5 different problems solved. Onion peel tea for potassium, calcium, and plant immune support. Fermented rice water for the living microbial ecosystem beneath the surface. Vegetable scrap digest state for fast, direct nitrogen rescue. The full-spectrum kitchen brew for simultaneous multi-nutrient correction. Aged manure tea for deep, complete soil restoration, backed by more centuries of field evidence than any modern fertilizer can claim. What runs beneath all 5 of them is the same truth. What a modern kitchen calls waste, a garden calls essential nutrition. The nutrients were never missing from your property. They were simply being sent to the wrong destination. Landfills, drain pipes, compost heaps that take too long, while the beds outside went without. The gardener who understands this holds something genuinely valuable, a fertilizer supply that cannot be recalled, marked up, or discontinued. One that leaves no chemical residue in the fruit that eventually comes off the vine. One that actually grows more abundant the more you cook and garden, because every meal produces the inputs for the next harvest. The next time a plant starts to yellow, or a pepper stops setting fruit, or a tomato that was thriving last week suddenly sags toward the ground. Walk to the kitchen before you reach for the shovel. The rescue is almost certainly already there. Drop a comment below telling us which of these 5 you are trying first. Share this video with a fellow gardener who has been losing more plants than they are saving. And subscribe to Grow Bountiful so you never miss what we put out next. Every new subscriber keeps this channel going, and every gardener who finds these methods is one more reason we keep making them. We will see you in the next one. Happy growing.